Member of Parliament Risha Heiliger Martin says COVID-19 must be fought by preventing contagion. President of the collectivity, Daniel Gibbs, addresses the nation on the lockdown on French St. Martin. But first up, Prime Minister Sylvia Jacobs addresses the nation on the closure of schools and businesses on Dutch St. Martin. Those are the headlines for Tuesday, March 17, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Now for the details. In her national address on Tuesday, March 17th, to the nation, in an update of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Honorable Prime Minister, Mrs. Sylvia Jacobs, who is also chairlady of the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center, has made the decision to close all schools for 2 weeks. The decision was also made to shut down all non-essential businesses on St. Martin.
After yesterday's meetings, the decision to close schools from tomorrow, Wednesday, March 18th, has been made. This will be for 2 weeks. This will be done in order to stop the process of the spread within schools, as well as to be able to monitor in the event that cases have been identified. The decision was also made to shut down all non-essential services to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. However, this was done allowing this morning for the stakeholders to be able to plan how this would be executed. This will go into effect as of tomorrow, Wednesday, March 18th, 2020 at 12 a.m. for 2 weeks or 14 days. As some of you may be well aware, this decision has been making its rounds via social media, and as in the past, I felt it necessary to ensure that the public is duly and officially informed of all updates. Thereby, this early morning update via all media. I also take this opportunity to inform you that as of this morning, I was informed that St. Martin has its first positive COVID-19 case. Recently, a male local resident of St. Martin traveled to the UK via Miami. Upon his return, he called 914, and on Sunday, March 15th, samples were taken and tested by our contact lab in Guadeloupe. This sample is one of 5 that I mentioned during my discussion in Parliament yesterday, which were being monitored by CPS. All of the samples have tested negative. A second confirmatory test will be carried out by the RIVM in the Netherlands in order for the case to be properly confirmed. As I've also mentioned in past broadcasts and statements to the public, a first test must always be corroborated by a second test to be positively called a COVID-19 case. As such, we will await the result of said test. CPS has already started contact tracing, and the resident is in quarantine and has been currently and is still self-isolating and will continue for the next 14 days. I would also like to inform that the travel restrictions that were announced that would start today, Tuesday, will change also quite drastically. As of today, only St. Martin residents with a valid ID or proof of registration will be allowed to travel to St. Martin until Friday, March 20th, 2020. So I will repeat, while international airlines have been blocked, regional airlines are still able to come in until today. However, as of tonight at 12 a.m., so tomorrow morning, no flights will be coming in unless to bring in St. Martin residents and to allow persons who are on the island to leave the island. So there doesn't need to be a mad rush. The airlines will be making the necessary arrangements to allow for visitors to leave. The KLM and Air France are currently picking up passengers as we speak. However, it has been proven to be a bit difficult for some of, especially our Dutch residents, to get on board these KLM flights. So I'd like to announce that all St. Martin residents should have valid ID of St. Martin or proof of registration to be able to be allowed onto such flights to return to St. Martin. That restriction for even St. Martiners will be until Friday at 12 p.m. The reason for this is to allow us to be able to assess who are in the country and to avoid bringing in more suspected cases. This does not apply to passengers who are traveling to St. Martin at the invitation of government of St. Martin as technical or medical specialists or assistants. All returning residents of St. Martin and crew members are required to mandatory self-quarantine, meaning self-isolation in your homes for 14 days. You will be monitored by the Department of Health, and anyone, even of course residents who have not recently traveled, experiencing any type of symptoms related to COVID-19 are requested to contact 914 or call your general practitioner, call your doctor. Air and seafaring cargo travel, as has been reported before, will not be affected by these restrictions. This does not mean that any products, services, or goods would not be able to come into St. Martin. As such, I would like to remind the general public to remain calm. Do not go on a binge of shopping. It is totally not necessary. We are not having a hurricane. GEBE is not going to shut down. There will be water, there will be lights, there will be internet, and of course we will have to figure out how to coexist for the next 2 weeks at least in a new reality. We have been seeing the reports all over the world, and now it is St. Martin's turn.
And President of Parliament Rolando Bryson notified his colleagues and the members of the public that a few new measures will be taken in the way the Parliament will be conducting meetings in the future.
Just a brief notification that the Parliament will be announcing a few measures related to mitigation of the coronavirus in terms of the way we'll be conducting meetings. So for members of Parliament as well as the public to take notice that a press release will be coming out soon in that regard. So just want to let everyone know we have taken note of it, and those measures will come out as soon as possible.
And still to come, SZV closes their offices until April the 3rd. You'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
And welcome back. St. Martin Medical Center's Outbreak Management Team, OMT, has enacted precautionary measures which are taken with the objective to limit the possible exposure to COVID-19, the coronavirus, in order to continue to ensure the safety of St. Martin Medical Center's patients, staff, and visitors alike. A pre-screening at the St. Martin Medical Center's main office and at the entrance of St. Martin Medical Center's care complex. As of immediate effect, all patients and visitors will be subject to a pre-screening based on a questionnaire that requests some health questions related to COVID-19 symptoms. Their travel history and so forth will also be asked. Also, patient visiting hours have been scaled down to twice a day at 11:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. and then again from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And it is limited to one visitor per patient per visit, with children not being allowed to visit until further notice. St. Martin Medical Center further discourages anyone visiting the hospital that does not have an appointment or is visiting a patient. In addition, travel of St. Martin Medical Center's medical specialists have been postponed for the coming 4 weeks. While we like to reiterate that there are no suspected or confirmed cases of COVID-19 on St. Martin Dutch side, at present, St. Martin Medical Center would like to again highlight the steps to take if you or a family member are showing any of the signs of COVID-19, which include fever, cough, and shortness of breath, stated Dr. Felix Holliday, St. Martin Medical Center's Medical Director and Chairman of the Outbreak Management Team, the OMT. In case you develop these symptoms, it is of utmost importance that you first call your family doctor instead of going there or coming to the St. Martin Medical Center in person. A healthcare worker from Collective Prevention Services, CPS, will come to you for testing in case of a suspected COVID-19 infection. It is very important that, in case you develop the symptoms, you should home isolate and follow the instructions from your family doctor and CPS. You should also call your family doctor if you have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19 or if you have traveled from an area with widespread or ongoing community spread of COVID-19, Dr. Holliday concluded. And in news from the northern side of the island, French St. Martin, the French side has closed down all of their non-essential businesses for the next 15 days. That includes bars, restaurants, and shops. This is in keeping with the orders of the President of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron. The president of the collectivité, Mr. Daniel Gibbs, was speaking on one of the local radio stations of French St. Martin, Radio St. Martin.
Certain information that was needed to have before we come and communicate on anything. We had a meeting yesterday morning with the prefecture and a certain amount of partners to give an exact situation of what was said first by the president, the first speech that he made, secondly the prime minister on the second speech that he made. So indication was to take measures on a national field, but the problem is the application on the overseas department would be the same. There was a little time frame in between, and that's why there was this little hiccup between the instructions for France and the instructions for our overseas department. Today, things are very clear. Okay. The president made a declaration. In that declaration, we are confined in a certain way. Businesses needs to close. Only the essential businesses can continue with a special pass, which is the food and beverage, distribution, deliveries, because no restaurant, no shops, all non-essential stores. What is non-essential needs to be closed. The concept that the government is trying to do is to avoid circulation when there's no need for that, to leave the services organized and be able to function. Now, what is important is not only the requirements that we are taking on the French side, but also the cooperation with the Dutch side. This is something that is concerning a island and not a side of a island. Exactly. And that's the meeting that we held yesterday with Prime Minister Sylvia Jacob, in which we consent to be able to work with the same kinds of requirements that we have on one side for the other side. The first concern was the airport. We affiliate on the measures that are taking on the Dutch side airport, Juliana Airport, concerning the entries of airlines and passengers to St. Martin. During the meeting, the president did his declaration that permits us to, I would say, alleviate a problem in the situation we had with Crancars Airport concerning the simultaneation measures taken from that side versus French side. That is done. We are on the same level of functioning. Visitors are no more permitted on the territory. Only resident until Sunday will be able to come back home and For the rest, only emergencies will be able to circulate between islands or leaving the island. So those measures that we were obliged to take concerning government requirements are also those that we ask on the other side to be taking. They have meetings that were going on since yesterday, since after our meeting, to be able to put in a question. Most probably same measures will be taking. They need to have a certain time because they need to see with the social professional, they need to see how they organize for the schools and everything. So we are pretty much confident that we're on the same level of understanding, on the same level of putting things in place as we are doing on the French side. And that's important for the population to hear and understand that in this term of cooperation, things are functioning in the best manner.
And in other news from our social insurance bank right now, the offices of our social and health insurances, SZV, will be temporarily closed to visitors and customers as of March the 17th until the 3rd of April 2020. During this period, SZV services will be available only by phone and online with adjusted operating hours and procedures. These precautionary measures have been put in place to contribute to the safety and well-being of their staff, customers, visitors, and the community of St. Martin in light of the ongoing global coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic. SZV is asking their customers to be flexible and patient with them as they implement these changes to continue to serve in evolving conditions, with public health and safety at the forefront of all decisions. Please take note of the following notices and adjusted operating hours and procedures. These will be updated accordingly and communicated via the website of SZV. The adjusted online phone operating hours are general phone number 546-6782, Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. Doctor control phone number is 546-6775, Monday to Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Their email is info@szv.sx, response time 3 to 5 working days. The SZV Facebook Messenger, general inquiries, response time is 2 to 3 working days. www.szv.sx access to online contact form. If you do not have an email address, response time is 3 to 5 working days. Important notices as of March the 17th, 2020. The SZV offices will be closed for visitors and customers. Please do not visit the offices, but take note of the adjusted procedures and contact options. Doctor control will be possible online via info@szv.sx. Now turning to our weather forecast for March the 17th, 2020. Light to gentle winds will continue across the region due to a slight pressure gradient. A surface low pressure system located in the vicinity of the northern Leeward Islands may cause a few isolated showers during this forecast period. Seas will remain slight to moderate throughout the next few days. Now, let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, Member of Parliament Claudius Van Camper queries the openness of the island. I'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
And as we continue with the news at this time, Member of Parliament Grisha Halligan Martin says that COVID-19 must be fought by preventing contagion and economic recovery. Perhaps the most crucial test in our lifetime is the coronavirus, and what we do now as a community matters more than ever, said Member of Parliament for the United People's Party, the Honourable Krisha Heiliger Martin, on Monday. We must band together and pool our resources intellectually, medically, and economically, as this will determine what remains of St. Martin when the dust is settled. Heiliger Martin is concerned about the management of information that is sent to the community. I urge the government to ensure that it speaks with one voice and makes clear decisions. I would like you to consider everyone, businesses, visitors, and residents, when making these decisions, and let my people know what is going to happen ahead of time. She said the 4 steps that have been taken to explain to residents what to do in the event that they have to self-quarantine needs to be expounded on, to include things like how to get help if needed. It is not about if it happens, but when it happens. What we are telling our citizens to do. Let's be clear about this, said Heiliger Martin. She is also concerned that the mediums used is not sufficient to reach the masses. If this is about money, get assistance from the government-owned companies. Not everyone uses social media. We need to plaster the place with information about what to do when and if it occurs. Print flyers and posters in English, Creole, and Spanish. Put information at gas stations, pharmacies, and supermarkets, along with bus stops where people stand, so that they can get the information on what to do and where to go for help. To deal with the economic impact of COVID-19, this government must put together a stimulus package for the businesses, large and small, on the island. And in other news at this time, Prime Minister Mrs. Sylvia Jacobs, in her opening statements at the urgent plenary session of Parliament to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic and the state of the island in its preparedness, that was held on Monday, March the 16th, 2020, the Prime Minister spoke about the protocols that are in place with regards to the schools.
Schools also form part of this group, which have received the notice. And while schools have been deemed remaining open for the time being, they also have received the protocols that they must implement in order to mitigate the gathering of large groups. Schools have therefore been informed, for example, that no assemblies of over 100 children will be allowed at any time. So if schools want to still have large gatherings for the dissemination of information, they must be able to ensure that there is a safe distance between the children to be able to do so. Of course, it is different in an open setting as in a closed setting. Classrooms should also, as of today, be set up exam style as much as possible. This allows for distancing within the classroom setting, and if that is not possible in particular cases, sometimes you have group desks, the school will then have to figure out if it is possible to make other arrangements. If that is not so, they will then have to contact the inspectorate so that we can figure out together how to resolve this situation. Schools with large populations should prohibit gatherings at the start and end of school and stagger their recesses to ensure that on the playgrounds, also open spaces, there are no big groups of more than 100 at a time. They are also recommended to let out classes in stages, the larger schools. So certain classes will be held in while others leave, etc. Maybe doing it in terms of which school bus is in front at the beginning of the end of the day.
And still at the urgent plenary session, which was held to discuss the COVID-19 pandemic, speaking on the floor of Parliament, Member of Parliament, the Honourable Claudius Moncamper, made reference to the openness of the island. His concern was, are we doing the wise thing to remain open for our returning residents that may have been infected?
Seeing the latest developments all over the world, are we doing the wise thing to remain open for our returning residents from areas, Madam Prime Minister, that may be infected, making the possibility that they may be infected also great? How many tourists do we still have on island, and do those numbers include the Airbnb renters, and do we know where they are on island? Do we have any contact with Airbnb to see where these people are on this island? The flights, how are they going to function after Tuesday for the leaving passengers? Did the airlines confirm that they will fly down empty to St. Martin to pick up their passengers and take them back home? Mr. Chairman, I have some questions. I know they're going to be harsh for families, but we must ask them as we play a vital role in keeping this country safe. Why are we asking students to come back home if they so desire, when the chance of infection in places like Holland and the USA are so great? Why would we want to bring them home? We can't handle it, yet we ask them to come home. Can they even handle 14 days of the recommended, which I would hope someday to be hearing, mandatory quarantining of these students, or anybody that comes in now, from especially places like Holland and the US of A? Is government able to assist with this quarantining? Because the Prime Minister just said they are short of manpower, yet we talk about self-quarantining. People don't like to listen. We know that all very well. Unless force is used, the boys in blue all over, nobody listens. We know how that works, even when we put up curfews. I have been in the EOC, I know how that works.
And still to come, Member of Parliament Sarah Westcott Williams requests meeting to discuss tax reform. I'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns. And in this final item, as we end this edition of SXM Daily News, members of Parliament, MP Westcott Williams, MP Gums, and MP Bonkamper have submitted a request for a meeting of the Central Committee of Parliament on the topic of tax reform. In motivating their request, the aforementioned members of Parliament referred to the attempts at reform by the government over the years without any noteworthy progress. The members of Parliament, in their request, also gave an overview of the motions and other correspondence relating to tax reform presented to Parliament by members and by the government. Successive ministers have presented elaborate plans. However, due to various reasons, none of these have materialized or even been undertaken yet. For the past decade or so, the need to reform our tax system has been consistently or constantly highlighted, along with other measures to give our economy a much-needed boost. It is high time we take a holistic and inclusive approach to the issue of tax reform rather than the piecemeal approach that we have often seen. While successive governments' programs continue to highlight tax reform as a necessary part of the larger economic reform, action in this regard has been lagging. The meeting request was made on March 5, 2020, but has not yet been scheduled. However, given the potential dramatic consequences for our economy due to the corona pandemic, this discussion on tax reform must now be part of the urgent, broader discussion of an economic plan to save our economy and the livelihood of our people from a total collapse. Public and private sectors must come together to address mitigating measures urgently, MP Westcott Williams commented. I am Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programs are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. And on behalf of the SXM Daily News team, we thank you for watching and plan on meeting you right back here again tomorrow.